Hi everybody, I hope you're all well and dandy out there in Beatles world, YouTubers, members of the VC and anybody else that's just come across this little channel of ours. Today I'm going to do something slightly different. I haven't done one of these for a while. I'm going to be doing a response to a Beatles thread. This was done by Keir Smith, whose channel is From Me to You 1981, so please check out his channel. But I saw my old mate Gav Axman Spins do this response yesterday. I loved it, and I did say I might have a go. And he goes, "Dave, have a go at. Come on, let's get you doing these like threads again." So it's 10 questions, all Beatles related, and you've got to answer them as truthfully as you can. So question 1: what is your favourite Beatles album? Well, anybody who follows my channel regularly knows that this is my favourite Beatles album. It's officially called The Beatles, but everybody knows it as the White Album. Double album came out in 1968. This is a mono copy. It's on Apple and it's a top loader. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is a very, very low number. It's 0000320. I don't know if you can see that or not. Hope you can see that. There you go. And the reason it's my favourite Beatles album is because there's such a variety of music on it. You've got pop, rock, comedy songs, a bit of reggae, hard rock, you know, such a vast array of music. Question 2: what is your favourite solo Beatles album? Again, that is quite a hard one, depending on what the day is. All in all, I'd say my favourite solo Beatles album is John Lennon's Imagine from 1971. You all know the track listing on it. It's got Imagine, Jealous Guy, Crippled Inside, Oh My Love and things like that. And it's a fantastic album. Always a joy to listen to. There's that many you could choose though, isn't there? So, you know, but yeah, Imagine by John Lennon. That is my favourite Beatles solo album. Number 3 is your best unreleased Beatles song. Again, there's a lot you can go for. You can go for the things they did on the radio and stuff like that. I'm actually going to go for another song that was originally was recorded during the White Album sessions, and it's a song by George Harrison called Not Guilty. Now, the Beatles worked a lot on this song. I think they did over 100 takes of it, and then in the end it was rejected. It did eventually come out on Anthology 3, and it did come out on the White Album box set from a few years ago. Now, George did re-record this in 1979 on his album George Harrison, although it was a completely different. The words were the same, but it was more of like a bit of a slow song, where the Beatles version was, you know, a full-on rocker. So I hope that does count. Number 4: take a song off the White Album, but you can't take off Revolution 9 because everybody would take that off, wouldn't they? Again, that's quite a hard one, because if you start taking songs off, then it's not the White Album, is it? The one that I think I could do without listening to, apart from Revolution 9, is Why Don't We Do It in the Road? Simply because it's such a weird song. Nothing against the song. Some days I like it, some days I don't particularly like it. But, you know, that is the one I'll pick. You've got to pick one, so that's one I'm picking. Beatle Dave, please like and subscribe. Right, number 5. You've got to make a single that wasn't a single. So you can pick tracks off different albums from around the world or anything. Now I'm going to pick 2 songs off the British Beatles for Sale album. So my single would be No Reply and I'm a Loser. Now they are probably the best tracks on the album, and I think that would have probably made it a good double A side. So that's that one. Best album from 1973. This is the best solo albums. Now, you can't have Band on the Run, so that leaves 4, doesn't it? That leaves Red Rose Speedway, Mind Games, Living in the Material World, and Ringo Starr's Ringo album. I'm going to pick the Ringo album, basically because all the Beatles featured on it in one form or another. You know, George, John and Paul are all featured on that album, as well as Ringo. So I hope that counts. Question 7 is the best reunion single. So you've got to pick from Free as a Bird, Real Love, and Now and Then. I'm going to go with Now and Then. Basically because it's such a haunting song. You know, even now when I watch the video, the hairs on the back of my neck, you know, stand on end. And, you know, I think out of the three, that probably is the best one. A lot of people say, well, it's not really a Beatles song, is it? But it is, because all four are featured on it. That is the Ringo album from 1973, by the way, if you hadn't seen it. So what are we on now? 8. Your favourite Ringo Starr song? Well, I presume this means Ringo Starr when he was with the Beatles. Now, there wasn't that many that he sung on. I think there's about 11, weren't they? And he only wrote 2 of them, didn't he? Don't Pass Me By and Octopus's Garden. I'm going to go with Octopus's Garden, because I think it's just one of those fun songs that, you know, Ringo seemed to love doing while I was with the Beatles. So number 8 is my favourite Ringo Starr song when he was with the Beatles, is Octopus's Garden. Question 9 is, you'll have to excuse me because I've got all the things wrote down on here, so I've done a little bit of research as well. So question 9 is your favourite cover song by the Beatles. Again, there's so many. You could go with things that they did on the early albums. You could do things that they did during the Get Back sessions. You could do things they did just for the radio. I'm going to go with the cover song that was on Beatles' Oldies But Goldies in the UK, and I think it was on Beatles 6 in America, and it's an old Larry Williams song called Bad Boy. A bad little kid who moved into a neighbourhood. Now, John Lennon's vocals on that are fantastic. You can see that he's enjoying recording that song. They did a few Larry Williams songs, but I do think that is one of the best cover versions that the Beatles ever did. There's loads in it. There's Twist and Shout and you know, things like that. So, but yeah, I think for me, Bad Boy. And we had to wait till 1966 to get that in the UK, where in America you got it in 1965, didn't you? And then the last one, question 10, is, what do the Beatles mean to you? Well, to me, the Beatles mean everything in one way. I've been a fan since late 1980. I did know the Beatles before that, but after the, you know, John Lennon was murdered, you know, I got more and more into the Beatles, you know, started buying the records, still am buying the records. I think there will never ever be another band like the Beatles. They were just at the right time, at the right place. You know, they did make some mistakes, but, you know, it's like now everybody still talks about the Beatles 60 years on. You know, certain bands have got the same sort of following, like the Rolling Stones and things like that. But the Rolling, you know, the thing with the Beatles is, technically there was only a recording unit for 8 years, weren't they? Just under 8 years. And yet people are still going on about the songs now, the music, the Lennon and McCartney's writing, George's writing, George's guitar playing, Ringo's drumming, you know, things like that. You know, I think there will always be a place, whether it's up there or a little bit further down, and I think the Beatles set the bar so high, I don't think anybody's ever going to get over it. They might sell more records and things like that, or sell units as they call it now, don't they? You know, at one time the Beatles were the 4 most famous people in the world, weren't they? You know, in the 60s. And you know, they made films. Yes, Elvis made films. There's still books being written about them now. We're still getting albums released by them, aren't we? Yes, we might not all like these super deluxe box sets and things like that, but at least it is still keeping the Beatles name alive. Now, as years go on and people like me and people older than me aren't here to talk about the Beatles, then I suppose technically in one way there might be a time when people don't know the Beatles. I mean, I've said this before, you know, certain people think that the only thing the Beatles ever did were the Red and the Blue albums, because that's all you used to see in the shops at one time was the Red and the Blue albums. But yeah, they were a very, very big influence on me in my teenage years. John Lennon particularly was a very, very big influence on me. Excuse me. they've never made me want to be a pop star or anything like that, don't get me wrong, because I mean, I can sing at karaoke and things like that, but I can't really play guitar or anything like that. But it's like whenever I go anywhere, if I'm having a bad day, I can come home and I can put a Beatles album on, or a Beatles CD, or a Beatles tape, and for a while that, 30 minutes or whatever that record is playing, or that tape is playing, or that CD is playing, all the crap goes out the window. It's still there when you finish listening to it, don't get me wrong, but they are like a release valve in a lot of ways for me. They are the greatest band that was ever, full stop, aren't they? Yes, there's still bands from the 60s that are touring, but I think the difference with the Beatles is I think they quit while they were still sort of at their peak. So in the 70s, yes, the solo albums probably didn't sell as much as what the Beatles albums did, but the Beatles sort of like history was still intact. They finished on a high, didn't they? Although they had, they did fall out and end up suing each other and things like that, but they all made it up at the end of the day, didn't they? So that's about it. So if you've liked this video, give it a try. It's just a bit of fun, folks. Check out Kia Smith at From Me to You 1981, and check out Gav Axman Spins, because it's because of him that I am actually doing this. Although I did see Kia's, but I'd forgot that you'd done it, mate, to be honest. Have a go, see what your answer to these 10 questions would be. So love and peace to you all. Thank you to everybody that's subscribing, liking and leaving me comments, and just check out these 2 channels as well. This has been a pleasure doing this. So till the next time, it's Beatle Dave wishing you all peace, love and happiness. Cheerio for now, folks.